Alright everyone, welcome back to another Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes video with Fat Phil, and today I want to talk about the art of hoarding. With this era-based content that's coming with the new update for the anniversary, should be this week sometime, you're going to have to start hoarding resources in ways that you're not used to. And while this change is very positive, hoarding is something that many players struggle with, don't understand, and are going to have to, this change is going to force it in ways that we've never really experienced before. So I'm going to talk about how to prepare yourself for that, what it's going to take, the resources that you can use to help understand, and then again, just kind of reflecting on how this could change as we move into this new, content that's isolating the era, isolating legacy, how those things are going to interact as this continues to move forward. So please like, subscribe, comment, guys. Want to give a quick shout out to our channel members for their continued support if you're ever interested. Link below. More importantly, check out the Discord. Go join, get the conversation started. I really appreciate you guys. It's been such a fun, if you'd have told me 3-4 years ago that this is what I would be doing for Swago, I would have laughed at you. So appreciate everything, guys. Let's get in here and let's talk about some Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. Alright, so as I said, with this isolated content that we're getting from the 10-year anniversary, where you're going to get the characters inside of the era for however much time, and then when the era is over, they transition to Legacy. Compare that to right now, where, hey, as soon as the character's marquee is here, we can start equipping them with gear, materials, mods, abilities, all that stuff, right? That shift, you say, oh, well, Phil, in the era, we're still going to be able to upgrade their level and they'll come into our roster at a certain point. Correct. And they've even told us, they gave us, some examples of what that would look like here. And I want to pull those up just so you can understand where I'm going with this and why, this hoarding is going to be a thing. So if we go over to the screen capture here, and they're saying, hey, you get to, some players will get to level 85 gear 12. So, okay, you didn't need to equip the earlier Kyratex and stuff, but you still need to have the, if you want to upgrade those characters and use them in legacy content, you're going to need to have, with this anniversary era, and again, I'm going to scroll down, then we'll come back up, you're going to need 7 characters worth of that. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 7 with Maul. So you have 7 characters inside of this legacy content. So if you get 7 characters at gear 12, you now need 7 characters worth of relic materials, 7 characters worth of signal data and relic mats to get to the point where you can interact with them in the legacy content then, right? Think about getting them, okay, you got them to relic 2, you don't need to worry about that relic gear, right, the gear 13 gear, but you need all the signal, you still need signal data. And then for some of you, you're getting, hey, relic level 6. Well, I think about someone like Scribe, who is taking these characters to Relic 8, Relic 9, Day 1. I think it's Relic 7 or Relic 8, Day 1. I don't know that he does 9 for everybody. But either way, I think he still is now going to have to hoard a lot of resources if he wants that same interaction level with these characters. That's not something that many of you have done before or are successful with. And that's going to involve you being able to look at a character and know how much you need at every single level. One of the resources I want to offer to you is my comprehensive relic farming guide. This will show you, and again, this will get updated once we get to Relic 9 updates, Relic 10. I will make sure that this stays up to date, that you can see how many materials you need at every single level, relic level, how many you need in total here. Similar situation with the signal data. I will update all this. I'll make sure that this is all nice and fresh and has some, good information in here. But you're going to have to be able to know, looking at those 7 characters, how much signal data is necessary to finish them off to do all these things. And that's not something that's available in game. You either need to use this or do math on swago.gg. So it's not a simple process. It is something that is going to be a little bit more challenging than what we're used to. And that's, again, it's not impossible, but for some players, it's not easy to look at a character like Smee see that little, hey, I can make all these upgrades, but I can't because I need to save it for, Stormtrooper Luke or, Asajj Ventress Dark Disciple, sort of situation, right? Another aspect of that is mods. Right now, think we can equip the character with mods immediately. In this new era system, you're not going to be able to equip them with mods. So it's not just this relics and gear that you need to think about hoarding, but the mods as well. And that's going to be a lot more challenging because we have a limited number of mods that you can hold in inventory. In fact, the unassigned mod cap is 500. So you are allowed to have 500 unassigned mods in your inventory. No more than that. Well, one of the things that I and many other players can benefit from right now is that when I unlock a new character like Forlom and Zuckuss, I can go on and equip 6 mods from my inventory. And that gives me additional, cap in my unassigned list that I can add mods in, try to work on them and see which ones will get, the speed and the stats that I want. Well, now it's going to be a little bit more challenging because you're going to have to upgrade mods on characters that maybe you wouldn't be using, but they're your placeholder until you get Stormtrooper Luke or Maul Hatred or, what is it? Yoda and Chewie, right? You're going to have to think through that, right? I think Shitstorm was calling him Yobaka. I've heard other people calling him Choda. Both are hilarious. Both are awesome. But you think you're going to have to save those mods and the slicing materials. You're going to kind of have to use POW as like a placeholder to say, all right, I'm going to try and slice this up while I wait to get the character that it's eventually going to go on. But that's going to take a couple of months to do. So that's another change. And again, one of the things you could do is utilizing loadouts. So let's say I'm going to create one for a, let's go with an attacker. So I've got my unassigned mods because again, that's all we've got. So let's go with, let's equip this mod here. All right, now let's go down here and let's look for you and you. All right, yeah, that one works. All right, let's go here. Yep, that works. All right, let's go here. Hey, that's got offense percent. All right, let's go here. Yep, let's just throw it on. All right, and done. Right, so there's my mods. Now what I'm going to do is I've got to save these, and then I've got to, work on slicing them, and maybe that means putting them on certain characters, but you can utilize these mod loadouts, but you only get, I think, you don't get a lot of these mod loadouts. So depending how many characters you need to create and how many mod loadouts you're saving just for everything else, this could also be a challenge. So those are going to be areas where I think you are going to have to be careful on how we, go about participating with this kind of content, is looking at mods and figuring out how to best utilize what you have. And I think mod loadouts will be important, but it is going to be challenging because you think you're going to just wake up one day, there's going to be 6 or 7 new characters in your account that you need to do all that stuff with. And if you're not prepared, if you're not organized, that could be problematic. And especially in a game where the mod UI is not that good, this is an area that you're really going to want to make sure that you have that stuff ready to go, so you spend as little time possible trying to figure out what mods you need. Now, the final thing I did want to bring up here with regard to hoarding and other stuff is the change that this will have on Lightspeed bundles. With this era-based content, one of the problems that exists right now, I'd say in the current state of the game, is that this, like Tuskens, right? The Tuskens, this is a bundle that stares at me in the face every single time, and I just have to use my willpower to not buy it, right? I've been putting out for so long, and we're going to kind of keep, I'm hoping one day I get a Tusken Lightspeed bundle that I could use on Tusken Warrior, or Lightspeed token that I can use on him. But I've been holding off on this. And what I was explaining when I was on, I was talking with Agnards, is I was like, I don't really see the value that bundle will have for me, because if I'm getting all these characters in the era to a relic level, I'm saving all this gear. I'm even saving some signal data that will free up and be able to use for characters like this. Now, of course, that signal data could be used for Relic 9 and Relic 10 materials, and then my further argument would be, well, what would a Relic 5 Tusken team be able to do for me then? So the Lightspeed bundles could potentially lose some value for players depending on the level of investment inside of era content, because you're either going to have an abundance of relic materials, and even if you're saying, oh, well, I'll use everything for, corrupted signal data and relic 10 stuff. One thing I'm going to say, word of caution, whenever they've released a new relic level, right, relic 10, when they released relic 8 and relic 9, the primary source that you could get from that was packs, right? The advantage was, hey, you're spending the money, you're going to be able to do this better than everybody else. So one thing I'm going to say that I'm kind of anticipating is that for a little bit here, there's going to be a lot of us who are going to have a lot of excess materials where it's either going to go into increasing relic levels on existing characters or, finally getting around to some of those legacy units that we haven't been able to upgrade. Again, that's a discussion for another day, but it does change the way you look at a Lightspeed bundle. Now you're going to look and say, hey, Relic 3 really isn't anything at all, because to get to Relic 3, you're spending, a handful of materials that is, not really that significant to you. So maybe that's not worth it anymore, because you're already saving a ton of Chirotech from the era content. You're going to be saving some signal data depending on your level of investment. It's, I think they could lose some value, and maybe that changes their pricing, or it changes that instead of getting Relic 3s, maybe you're getting 6s or 7s, because, again, the game's kind of heading in that direction, and also because people aren't going to feel that there's as much value there for them. I really do believe that. I really, really believe into my core that the value here will decrease because of the abundance of materials. So, with all that said, guys, hoarding is going to be an issue. It's going to cause some players to have to really evaluate the way that they're looking at their roster, how they're spending things, and even to an extent, it's going to change how your growth happens. Right now, I'd argue you can kind of expect this pretty cyclical growth where every 2 weeks you're getting a boost in GP from a character or a ship, and then every little bit you're kind of getting that boost from a conquest unit, galactic legend, journey guide character. Now what's going to happen is, like, every 3 months your roster's just going to skyrocket. Your roster's just going to skyrocket in the legacy side, right? Because obviously the era content, maybe there's some growth that will happen, but like the legacy content stuff, it'll just kind of every couple months, boom, massive update, boom, massive update. And it could throw the game into disarray for a little bit, because you think about the impact on GAC and territory wars. We slowly kind of worked the pirates into our strategies. We slowly kind of worked them in as we got more of them, and we saw their change and we saw their benefits. Well, now you're going to get, 7 characters all of a sudden that people might not know how they work. You're going to have to figure them out, and it is going to change a lot of that stuff. And for people who've, again, hoarded that resource, they might have a big advantage. So, I talk, guys, and I think those are some areas where I'm just kind of looking at this new content and thinking to myself, hey, we haven't really talked about the need to be able to hoard. And, I would argue I'm pretty good at it, right? I'm normally pretty good at looking at characters and saying, hey, I shouldn't be spending those resources because I need them for XYZ. But now the balance is going to be knowing how much I need to bring my pirates to Relic 9, and then do I still have room to take Ezra Bridger Exile to 9? Do I still have room to do these things and then get what I need to get out of that, era when they unlock? That's the stuff we're going to need, and I really do believe that that change will be something that will take a little bit for some of us to get used to. So, like, subscribe, comment. I love you all. May the force be with you, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers, my friends.